Hello, welcome. It's good to see everyone. Thank you for coming. We have a little opening activity here, an icebreaker. As you come into the room, feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. And then we have a question for you. What information do you think is the most valuable to a cyber criminal? So you can add that answer to the chat too. And we'll give everyone just a few minutes to get in, to come on in and get situated before we start. If you have any questions too, please post those in the chat. For example, I'm hoping that everyone can see the screen that I'm sharing right now. And if you can see that screen, there's a little activity for you. Introduce yourself, say hi, tell us where you're from, and then answer this question for us. What information do you think is the most valuable to a cyber criminal? Thank you, Lori, for being first. Any info is important to a cyber criminal. It's true. Passwords, personal information. Thank you. Credit card info. Personal data. And what does that include? Anything, everything. Already, Pauline, we've got lots of answers coming in.
I know. This is wonderful.
Social security number. Identity info, email, financial info. Thank you, Kathy. Another vote for social security number. And it looks like we've got people from Montana and South Dakota to Rhode Island, so all over the country. Social security number again. Ooh, fun fact, when I went to college, our social security numbers were on our swipe cards. Well, my 6th grade son in his school, I think they just figured out this year that his password to all of his Google accounts was his birthday. So that was just this year. All right, so we are about 3 minutes after the hour. We'll get started. Welcome to Cybersecurity 101. My name is Todd. I work on the content team at Sphero. Before we get started, we had just a couple answers or a couple reminders for you. This session is going to be 45 minutes long, and it's a little bit different from our other Sphero sessions in that this is the first one of a 3-part series. So we'll have a webinar session next week and then the following week. We won't be sending out PD certificates until after the last one on November 1st. And if you attend all 3, you also get a badge that is cybersecurity trained Sphero. Don't worry, your audio is muted, your camera's off, so it's okay. Don't worry about interrupting our session, but please do interact with us. Let us know how you're doing and communicate with others in the chat, just like you're doing now. If you want to direct any questions directly at Sphero without putting them in the chat, you can use that Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen. One last thing is we will be giving away 1 bolt at the conclusion of this session, and so stick around and then we'll announce that at the very end. So without further ado, I'd like to hand this over to Pauline. So I think some of you, if you're familiar with what we've been doing in cybersecurity, know who Pauline is. Pauline is a professor at Pace University in New York, and she also runs Camp Cryptobot, which is a camp for high school students that I got to peek into last summer, which is pretty cool. One thing I know about Pauline and having the opportunity to work with her over the past 1.5 years is that she does an exceptional job of making complex topics understandable and exciting. And so I'm super happy to turn it over to her and get this webinar kicked off.
Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much, Todd, for a warm introduction. Yes, you're in for a treat today, and we hope to unpack more about cybersecurity. In particularly, if you can have the next slide, we're going to share with you what we're going to cover today. But first, for those of you that were here for our icebreaker, we asked the question of what did you think cyber criminals would value? What information would they value? And this is the top most wanted information that cyber criminals crave after. And you will notice the number one is customer information, which a lot of you put into the chat as social security number, your ID number, your personal information. That's what they want. And because that will lead them to doing identity theft, which is, as we know, not good. So this session is really taking a look at unpacking a little bit more about cybersecurity and understanding why individuals hack and what causes them to hack and what can we do to prevent that, and how can we teach safety to our students and our community. We can have the next slide, please. So at the heart of cybersecurity is what we call the CIA triad. This is a concept, a basic concept that is at the core of cybersecurity, which we call the CIA triad. And the CIA triad is the acronym for C is for confidentiality, I is for integrity, and the A is for availability. So we say a system is secure or our information is secure when all three parts, all three components of this triangle, we like the symbol of the triangle because inside is our information that is secure. So if we can, or if a system can ensure that the data is confidential and it's correct, we're going to get into and unpack these definitions a little bit more, and it's available, then we can say the system is secure. Now, we also add on to this definition accountability and authentication, but they are not part of the CIA triad, but they are also byproducts of the CIA triad. Next slide, please. So when we're talking about, when we're looking at hackers or cyber crime, I like to use the phrase hack attacks, and you'll find that almost all of the hack attacks are trying to break down one of those sides of the triangle. So what is a hack attack? Now, today, we're just going to talk about 3 of these different hack attacks, but there's so many different types of attacks and algorithms and programs and scenarios that are trying to compromise the confidentiality or the integrity or the availability. Because if we can break down one of those sides or even 2 of them, then the hacker is in. So today we're going to take a look at something called snooping, which is an attack on integrity, man in the middle, which is an attack on confidentiality, and distributed denial of service, which we sometimes refer to as DDoS, which is an attack on availability. And we're going to show you in today's session how these abstract concepts can be demonstrated very easily with both. So let's begin. So we'll start with the next slide. So when we use the term confidentiality of the CIA triad, what we're actually referring to is the privacy of your information. So when we say confidentiality, we mean that we need to protect your personal information, and that you're authorized, or the individuals looking at your information are authorized to view that particular data or content. So we're trying to preserve the confidentiality. So that's what we mean when we say confidentiality. Now, in our next slide, or before we do that, let's have a little discussion. So in the chat, please give an example where your confidentiality, or if it's not you, maybe you heard of someone or you know of someone or you've read about it, where the confidentiality was breached, just to make sure we are all clear on confidentiality and when it is being compromised. Yes, that's a great one. The voting booth, target breach. These are all scenarios where privacy was compromised and the ricocheting effects of how that occurred, or stolen passwords and to mimic someone. Yes, social media. So thank you. Yes, those are all excellent examples. And these are examples that you could share with your students or share with an audience to help them understand why confidentiality and why privacy is so important and so critical in cyberspace. All right, we're going to move along. Thank you so much. Now, when we talk about integrity, integrity is the correctness of the information. So if the hacker goes in and tampers with your bank account, and instead of you having 1,000, removes a couple of zeros and you only have $1, then that is also not good. That is also the integrity. So the integrity is very important because we make decisions every day based on information. And if that information is distorted, if it's corrupted, or if it's destroyed, then we cannot make those decisions. So we call that integrity. The integrity of the information is very, very critical. So again, we'll pass on this, but we'll pick this up toward the end, and we'll just keep moving now that we have a little rhythm here. And the last is availability. Availability is critical again. Availability means if you go to use your computer, does it boot up? Or if you put your ATM card in the machine and you want to make a transaction and you're unable to do that, that's also could be detrimental. So availability means that you have access to the information and data when you want it and how you want it. And if a hacker impedes that communication or that ability to have the information available, then again, it could be that the system has been compromised. So again, we'll share examples a little bit later so we can move along. So again, to summarize, computer security is when we have the confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability. All three of these strands or pillars, these are key cybersecurity concepts that anything we talk about in cybersecurity can go back to this foundational concepts of confidentiality, integrity, and availability. And so when we talk about this more explicitly, we're really taking a look at hardware, software, firmware, people, everyone that's involved in the system, and trying to preserve all three of these strands for all aspects of an information system that enable one to communicate seamlessly from one device to another. Okay, next slide, please. So if we were to look at the top 10 cyber threats to an organization, all of these 10 threats are an attack, a hack attack, either on the confidentiality, the integrity, or the availability. And let's take a look. The first one, phishing. Phishing is definitely an attack on confidentiality. Your emails that you get that are trying to get information or personal information from you is trying to destroy the confidentiality of your information. And once they have that information of like your social security number or your mother's maiden name or the last 4 digits, then they're in. Or malware. Malware are small programs that infect the system and impede processing of the computer. So again, malware it could affect the integrity. It could alter information on your system, or it could be a DDoS attack where it prevents you from accessing information. So, and again, all of these different threats to an organization can be tied back either to one or two or all three of the CIA triad. So let's take a look at some violations of the CIA triad, like we mentioned before. One is what we call snooping. Okay, snooping. Well, so when we say snooping, it's really just what it says. It's like eavesdropping in or listening in to something that you're not supposed to listen in. So these hackers or individuals have unauthorized access to your personal information or company data. And their motive is to try to get your username or your password or some personal fact that they can then use to then try to steal your identity. And 33% of Americans have been victim of identity theft. And let me ask a question for you. How many K through 12 students do you think gave their phone number to a stranger on a percentage? Just put it in the chat. Let's see what you come up with. 85%, 75%, 70, 50, 90. Well, actually it's 53%, so it's still fairly high. And 15% tried to actually meet a stranger. And 78% of these victims happen to be girls. So cybersecurity and understanding the CIA triad and breaking this down, the seriousness for minors is very important when they're in cyberspace, that they know how to protect themselves, I should say, from snooping. Because if someone gets some of the information, either while they're on their phone or they're surfing, it could be detrimental. It could put them at risk. So this is why this is so important for them to understand the safety and what they need to do to protect themselves, and why they should not give out their information or personal information to a stranger or anyone. So the next type of attack we have is what we call man in the middle. And man in the middle is just what it says. It says you're trying to communicate from one person to another person or one device to another device, and there's someone that's intercepting your information and trying to figure out what to do with it. Okay, so we call this man in the middle. And according to Netcraft, they had man in the middle attacks were 95%. This was back in 2016, and it's actually has gone up since then. So this is a common type of attack. And this is why when you're doing transactions, you really want to make sure that they're secure transactions, or you see the little lock, so that someone is not listening in or trying to be the person in the middle and grab that information before you establish a connection. The third attack we want to talk about on the next slide is what we call distributed denial of service. And this type of attack tries to eliminate the availability of the CIA triad. And studies have shown that there are 30,000 denial of service attacks, meaning you try to get on the network, you try to maybe make a reservation for an airline or a hotel, and you can't. You just get the hourglass. It's denial of service. I mean, someone has written a program and they flood the server so that the server cannot handle any more requests at that time. And we call that a denial of service attack. And so instead of making your business in a timely fashion, you just have to wait and wait and wait and wait till whenever. And sometimes you never get to make that because the system is hung up in a loop. So that the purpose of the question is, what is the end game of denial? The end game is not to service you, is to slow the system down, is to impede processing, it's to enable systems to come to a standstill and cause businesses not to do business or transactions. If you're a business, and let's say you're an airline business and you need people to make reservations and they can't because you can't get on because the system is it's not that the system is down, the system is up, but because the system is trying to handle all these requests that are not true requests, you are unable to get in. It's like if you would make a phone call and you're trying to talk to Con Ed about your bill, and they just have you sitting in the queue waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And so that is the objective, is not to service the clients properly or to get their information or have a transaction occur in a timely fashion.
So Pauline, we have a comment in the chat. So it's more like cyber terrorism rather than personal gain. But we've seen examples of even students, high school students, using script bunnies to DDoS attack their schools, right? That happened during remote learning to a number of places. So it kind of just wreaks havoc, correct?
Yes, correct. There's very famous cases of students doing gaming unintentionally, but they're playing with their games and they bring down the school district's network system and nobody can do anything. So we have to educate everybody about this and make children aware that this is not what they want. This is not the proper behavior or ethical behavior that they should be doing in cyberspace.
And a question from Carolyn: could this expose your credentials in any way? Is your personal information in danger during a DDoS attack?
No, 1 minute, the light went off in this room, 1 second. Sorry, I'm in a classroom and the light, I didn't move, so the light went off. I'm sorry, what was that question again?
So it's just, could a DDoS attack expose your credentials in any way? Are they after your personal information?
No, not in this particular attack. No, they're not really after personal. This one is just trying to prevent you from doing a transaction or prevent you from doing some sort of processing with the system or a request, or using a server or making a request or getting information or uploading information. That is the objective, is to block you from having access to your network or server. So as someone said, yes, you have a student take down the whole school and all the schools exactly for days. So it just brings the whole network to a halt, because what happens is the bandwidth of the network can't support all these requests. It's like if you can, suppose you're a telephone station and you can handle, let's say, 50 calls at one time, and then all of a sudden you get 500 calls. You just can't handle them, and the system. So that's exactly what this type of algorithm does. It's so many requests. It's saying, do this, do this, do. There's just too many requests that the server can't handle it. So the whole thing just halts. Instead of servicing specific requests, it doesn't do anything. It just, the whole system, it actually crashes the system, just like someone put in the chat, and you just can't do anything. So it's not like it's going after information. It's just impeding the processing of the system. So nobody gets served and nobody has access to do anything. So again, this is a real attack on availability. The availability of the system is non-existent. That's what it's doing. This is not an attack on integrity, where it's trying to get information, or confidentiality, where it's trying to also get information, or integrity, trying to corrupt the information or modify the information. This is a specific attack on availability, saying that your system is no longer available. I've just exploded it with so many requests. That's the objective behind this algorithm that works. So this was great. So again, how would you teach these types of attacks to your students? Well, this has been very challenging. And this is one of the challenges that I've been struggling with for the last, I would say, 10 years in cybersecurity, is how do you teach the CIA triad? And how do you teach these different types of hack attacks and programming algorithms that destroy or compromise the CIA triad? Because these are abstract topics, and yet you want the students to get a hands-on. You want them to conjure up a visual image of this so that they can comprehend it. Well, Sphero and Bolt comes to the rescue. So you'll see on our next slides, and this is what I'm so passionate about, is we can actually teach the CIA triad with Bolt. So for those of you who may not have seen Bolt or know what Bolt is this phenomenal ball that has all of these features in it that enable you to teach these abstract concepts very innovatively. And that's what you're going to see today. We are going to show you how those three attacks can be taught seamlessly using Bolt. So last year, I was very fortunate and honored and humbled to be asked by Sphero and Todd and Adrian and their content team to help design some of these wonderful hands-on labs that take these very abstract cybersecurity concepts and break it down very easily in this book. So today in this session, we're just going to talk about 3, but you're welcome to go back and look at this lab and see how we were able to take these abstract concepts and really bring them to life for the students. So you will see on the next slide, snooping. So here we have snooping. So we use 2 bolts to illustrate how one bolt can scan another bolt and see how it responds using the IR messages and then control its movements. And you can see here that what is phenomenal about Bolt and the programming is that this is a GUI, a graphical user interface, which is drag and drop. Because in other platforms, there is a learning curve in trying to learn the program first. And then once you learn the program, then you try to apply the program to demonstrate the concept you're trying to teach. But this, because the learning curve is so low, as you can see, you have 4 little icons on top of each other, and then that is an actual code. And so that code you see, the first one you see is sends where the arrow goes. It sends a message to one bolt, and another one it sends another bolt. And so these are all different code blocks that can demonstrate very easily where a student can actually see what snooping is and what the ramifications of snooping are. And in our next slide, we show the person in the middle attack. And again, in this particular scenario, students can program a bolt to intercept and modify messages before they deliver it to a second bolt. So here we can demonstrate very clearly what a hacker can do. A hacker, you think you're sending a message from point A to point B, it's intercepted, it's modified, so the integrity of that message has been altered, and then it's given to the next person who then makes a decision on corrupted information. So this, having these illustrations and visualizations of these very abstract topics then lend for conversations, they lend open students understanding. We can talk about ethics. We can talk about the hacking and what we can do to prevent it. So it's phenomenal. It just brings the concept to life, and students, I find, understand it so much easier than just talking about it. In our last example, you can see here we have the DOS denial of attack. So students program 2 bolts to represent the attacker and the victim in an attack. So then when he does the attack, notice it turns red and it stops. So what this is showing in this typical scenario is, oh, I can do whatever I want to do. The ball can go here. I can do whatever I want to do. I can go send messages here. I can send an email. I can do a Word document. I'm just going about my day using my computer. Suddenly I get an attack and I'm immobilized, and whatever I want to do, I can do no longer, because I don't have control over where I want to go. Someone else has taken over the control. And so again, because of these wonderful visualizations and the simplicity of the code that is required to demonstrate these concepts, students are able to grasp these very complex concepts in cybersecurity very, very easily. And that's what I find so exciting about using Bolt with cybersecurity to teach cybersecurity concepts and principles and the CIA triad. So, yes.
I was just going to say, what's neat about this one is you have one bolt attacking another bolt. So this is just denial of service attack. And then you can extend this lesson by having a whole bunch of classroom bolts attacking one bolt, and then you see that one bolt really become disabled, right? So that would be a distributed denial of service attack. Makes it very visual, and it's cool to see.
Right, there was a couple of questions. So Todd, if we can take a couple of those questions now.
Yeah, and I think it seems like they are being
are they being answered?
In the chat? There have been a couple questions about using these with Sphero Mini. And I think Brad answered that one, that a lot of them rely, like you can see on the screen here, on the matrix on top of Bolt. And then IR messages, someone else commented, and that's only a Bolt only feature. So you won't be able to do as many of them on Mini, but definitely check them out, because you can often adapt the lesson to what your robot is capable of. And you could do a lot of the movement-based stuff with Mini.
Right.
I had another good question for you. I didn't know if you wanted to
Sure.
answer it now, but a question was, is it wise to encourage or develop lesson plans for white hat type hacking exercises with students? I think I guess I'm getting at, like, whether or not it's smart to teach kids about this in the case that they might misuse them. Your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Well, we actually, in our Sphero exercises, we do have in the lab book, we do have something about the white hacker, the black hacker, the different types of hackers, meaning hacking for good cause to see what the vulnerabilities of a system are, and the bad hackers that hack to destroy the CIA triad. So yes, you can use this. This is an excellent tool. You can make up the lesson plans once you understand that whatever it is, the concept, and this is not just limited to cybersecurity, but it's any concept that you wish to teach, whether it's critical thinking, problem solving. You can make Bolt, because Sphero and Bolt has the drag and drop, the GUI interface, and it also has the JavaScript as well. You can pretty much program whatever it is you want to program, even if it doesn't exist. That's what's wonderful about this product, is that it has the flexibility to demonstrate and do anything. Once you have programming, you can program anything. So if you can think of it and believe it, then you can write the code for it and you can demonstrate it. And so that's what's great about this, is this opens the door of creativity and innovation for students. And you can let students come up with their own code and say, well, how would you, using Bolt and using the tools, the couple of simple commands, how could you simulate a DOS attack, or come up with your own attack? Or what would you do to prevent this attack? Or how could you detect an attack of something like that? So now you have them starting thinking as a hacker, and then thinking more like a cybersecurity analyst on what they could do to prevent those attacks. Okay, so let's continue on. Let's move to our next slide. And I'll turn this back over to Todd.
Yeah, so just Pauline is getting to the end of our time, and I would like everyone to respond in the chat. What is one thing you'll take away from this session? You can also feel free to put in there like a question you have that you would like us to consider for next time. Okay, cool. Interested in getting that cybersecurity lab activity book. Can we take the we saw a quick link on one of those slides that would get you right to it, but maybe someone from Sphero on the call, can we post in that chat window the link to that lab book? Perfect. Cool. So if you click that link, you can get those access to those lessons right away. There's links in that book that will take you directly to the activities in Sphero EDU. Nice. Yeah, Pauline laid out very clearly those 3 types of attacks, and then how they rely connected to the CIA triad. I appreciated that too. Love the application and getting students learning about security.
Right, and these are just three approaches, 3 lessons. I mean, you can have many more lessons, and we'd love to see what you can come up with these attacks and what you can make Bolt do, because Bolt is, like I said, it has opened up a door of learning and comprehension of cybersecurity that I am the evangelist of this product, because I have been struggling, like I said, for the last 10 years in trying to teach this topic. This is not an easy topic at all to teach on the college level, much less high school students. So like I said, I run the cybersecurity camp, and we struggle every year, my team, on how do we, and we've tried many different things. I've tried drones, we've tried Raspberry Pis, we've tried programming. And so when I came across Bolt, to see, almost 95% of students understand this very clearly, what we're talking about, I knew we had hit on something, and this was something that needed to be shared with educators all over, so that everybody could really understand what cybersecurity is and why it's important and why we need to be safe with our devices, and what's actually happening with communication and protocols and networks. So we're so happy that you took time out today to join us for this webinar, and we look forward to seeing you in the other sessions as we continue on this journey of diving deeper into understanding the complexities and the abstractness of cybersecurity, and unpacking it so that we can be safe. We can be safe and understand what it is and the ramifications. How can we be safe if we don't understand when we log on into cyberspace, or we go on the internet, or we go on a browser, if we don't understand what confidentiality is, or what integrity is, or availability, if we are not aware, then how can we prevent? So we hope that this webinar has been helpful. So I'm going to turn it back over to Todd and the Sphero team.
Well, then Pauline, maybe you can so this is the first in a series of 3. Pauline will be back next week, 10:25. And do you want to give a little preview, Pauline, about what you'll be talking about?
Yes. So in 10:25, we're going to be talking about cyber safety, and how do you teach how to be safe, and techniques and tools, what to look for in terms of phishing emails. We spoke about phishing in this session. Next week, we're going to go further into phishing, and what do you look for, and what are the signs, what are the symptoms, what are the flags that you can be alert. So that's what we're going to be discussing, cyber safety, and how do we teach that to our community. In terms of cyberbullying, we're going to touch on cyberbullying and talk about to post or not to post. And it's going to be more geared for children and getting them to understand what to do, safe practices online. And then on 11.1, we're going to talk about how you can use Bolt in the classroom After school, I'm going to share some techniques and strategies I've used in the camps and beyond, really how to use this tool to engage students to think critically. As we all know, there's a STEM dilemma, and young women are not in the STEM fields for a variety of reasons. Well, Bolt has a wonderful way of engaging and addressing this STEM gap and this deficiency. And so we're going to share with you some strategies on what you can do and how you can get up and running very, very quickly. Like I said, the learning curve compared to other technology, sometimes the learning curve becomes very daunting, and teachers and educators alike are reluctant to jump in. But the learning curve is so low that you can be up and running in Bolt in a couple of hours. And so that's what we're going to show you in 11.1, just how to become a Bolt expert in a few hours, and get you going. So that's the upcoming sessions.
Cool. And then, yeah, thank you all for being so active in the chat and engaging and asking great questions and offering great responses. The giveaway for today is has been selected, and it is Phil Faleo. Paul Faleo. So Paul Faleo, I think have your contact information from your registration. So we will reach out to you and look for us contacting you. And that's it for today. So thank you all for coming. And we look forward to seeing you all next week.
Yes, thank you again. And have a good, wonderful evening.